Right, so once again the Ansarallah Movement, the Houthis of Yemen, have had Benjamin Netanyahu reaching for the migraine medication. And Donald Trump too, as he's woken up from his slumber at Pope Francis's funeral. And they've done so in record-breaking fashion at that, having targeted the northern Israeli city of Haifa once more, but for the first time doing so with a hypersonic ballistic missile, setting the alarms off as far north as the literal border with Lebanon, whilst also hitting the average American in the pocket too, as they get better and better at bringing down US MQ-9 Reaper drones, to the point 3 have been downed in just the last week alone. A price tag of $99 million charged to the US public purse, and for what? What benefit is fighting the Houthis to the US? None. It is all for the benefit of Israel, committing genocide, refusing to stop, refusing to backtrack, refusing to leave Gaza, and therefore the Houthis refuse to stop targeting Israel in solidarity with Palestine. Americans pick up the bill for Israeli atrocity that won't stop, and it's having no effect at all. Though, of course, the Trump administration would have you believe otherwise, and if you're a family member of the idiot Pete Hegseth, you might have known about it already, far before any of the rest of us did. Either way, the Houthis aren't backing down, and US and Israeli attacks aren't doing much to stop them. They're appreciating the training and the target practice. They've said as much, and are seemingly going from strength to strength as a result. So where will they go next? Right, so a few stories of late, to my mind, have illustrated the changing dynamics of power in the Middle East more than the ongoing waves of Houthi military successes against both the United States and Israel since Israel collapsed that Gaza ceasefire. Still, they get dismissed by war hawks in Washington and Tel Aviv as little more than ragtag insurgents, but this couldn't be further from the truth, and more and more of us know about it now too. The Houthis have in recent months, especially over the last month or so since the ceasefire ended, demonstrated extraordinary sophistication, determination and military prowess, having now achieved a series of historic milestones, breaking records at it, pushing themselves further than they ever have before, and have given Western influence a good thumping right across the Middle East as a consequence. From the downing of these expensive US drones at a greater than ever rate, to the unprecedented strike on Israel's northern city of Haifa, the first such strike on this area since the end of the ceasefire, as it happens, and using a hypersonic ballistic missile at that, the Houthis are still delivering blows that not only expose Israel's vulnerabilities in solidarity with the people of Gaza, but also reveal the strategic futility of ongoing American interventions in Yemen on Israel's behalf. Since October 7th, Israel's brutal and relentless assault on Gaza has drawn fierce international condemnation, an illegally occupying power enacting brutal genocide against those they occupy, illegal in every sense of the word as that is. Entire neighbourhoods have been razed, tens of thousands of civilians killed, and a humanitarian catastrophe that is worsening in the here and now as aid is still being denied to the people struggling to survive there. And all, of course, with the explicit support of Trump and co. In response, though, the Houthis have made it clear time after time, for almost as long now, that they stand in solidarity with the Palestinian cause, that this position is immovable, escalating their own military operations against both Israel and the US presence in the region, refusing to end their actions until the day Israel gets out of Gaza. Despite intensified US airstrikes targeting Yemeni cities such as Sana'a and that vital port of Hadida, acts of aggression allegedly aimed at neutralising Houthi capabilities, as they keep telling us, but with US intelligence in Yemen somewhat lacking on the where the hell are they front, the Houthi resistance has not only endured but flourished, and these attacks, therefore, have been more on civilians than they have been the Houthis. The US attacks have only fuelled their resolve and pushed them to go further and further, and further they have gone. The biggest example of this happened just the other day, of course, when the Houthis launched that hypersonic ballistic missile that reached as far as Haifa, allegedly, Israel's northernmost major city. Sirens screamed across Haifa, Acre, even up to the Lebanon border, sending Israeli civilians scrambling for the air raid shelters again. Although Israeli officials swiftly claimed to have intercepted the missile, even having done so before it even crossed into Israeli airspace. They've done and said this many times before. And if it were truly the case, why were northernmost air raid sirens even being sounded then? That's a long way from the southern border of Israel, where they would cross into Israeli airspace, isn't it? Conversely, the Houthis countered this by asserting that the missile reached its designated target successfully. No, they don't say hit. They don't dispute Israel brought it down, seemingly. But they certainly seem to be disputing exactly where that happened, though. This has also revealed likely ongoing deep cracks in Israel's air defence shield. We've been wondering about the Iron Dome for some time, haven't we? Already reeling from recent failures of its new missile alert system as well. They got a new app and it doesn't work very well, which according to reports failed to trigger warnings during two crucial incidents now, including this latest strike on Haifa. So much for the new THAAD system that the US has sent in as well. They've got two of these THAAD systems in Israel now, don't they? Neither of them seemingly able to deal with these missiles from the Houthis, these ragtag bunch of rebels in the desert, so to speak. Alongside this new record for a Houthi hypersonic missile, though, has been the Houthis' increasingly remarkable success against the United States MQ-9 Reaper drones. This is where they're really hurting the US. In less than 6 weeks, Houthi fighters have downed a staggering $200 million worth of US drones, 3 of them brought down in just the last week alone. Each MQ-9 Reaper is priced at roughly $33 million. And therefore, I think above anything else going on between the US and the Houthis represents just how badly the US is failing and how much this failure is costing the American people than these drones being brought down. Knowing that price tag, each time a report comes in of one of these being downed, people will know how much US money just went up in smoke, how much American money just got turned into scrap and dumped across the sands of the Arabian Peninsula. It represents not only a financial hemorrhage for the US public purse, but a strategic nightmare for American forces. The loss of these drones is severely hampering efforts by Trump's administration to locate and neutralize the Houthi leadership, as they say they are doing, as they say they want to do, when they lack much in the way of intelligence on Houthi whereabouts to begin with. The stupidity of all of this is just staggering. It really is emblematic of the brain cell deficiencies of the Trump administration. Because even as Washington continues its aggressive bombing campaigns against Yemen, as I said, far more than actual Houthis, its forces are flying blind since they are unable to gather actionable intelligence in a country where the Houthis enjoy broad popular support and where American assets are vanishingly few. Speaking of brain cell deficiencies in the Trump administration, though, it would behoove me if I didn't move on from Trump himself, as if the operational failures weren't enough, to move on to a certain Pete Hegseth. Hegseth still can't stop leaking military secrets on social media, it seems. He has apparently been caught leaking sensitive operational plans concerning attacks on the Houthis to a Signal group chat once again, this time involving his wife, his brother and his lawyer. Well, I suppose we should be grateful no one in the press was there this time. Or were they? He appears to be as hard of learning as his boss, in which case so, doesn't he? Compounding Hegseth's harebrained half-wittery even more, though, are further revelations that Hegseth's wife, formerly of Fox News herself, attended confidential meetings alongside Hegseth with foreign counterparts. And frankly, this calls into question the entire command structure, not just where it comes to overseeing US actions in Yemen, but frankly anywhere at this point. Calls for Hegseth's resignation have just grown all the louder, of course, but he's classic Trump backer material, isn't he? An absolute fool. Yet despite all of the mounting losses and the operational chaos, the US continues its strikes on Yemeni soil. Fresh attacks on Sana'a and other regions have been launched in the last few days, bombing serving absolutely no clear strategic objective beyond defending Israel at US exchequer expense. There is no imminent threat to the US homeland emanating from Yemen. There never has been. There is no treaty obligation binding Washington to protecting Israeli shipping through the Red Sea either. And yet American bombs continue to fall, funded by the US public purse to the tune of billions and billions, which are certainly enriching weapons manufacturers but achieving nothing else. Nothing else but human misery and mounting international condemnation, not least amongst Americans who I am sure are sick of seeing their public money being wasted like it is. Meanwhile, Trump's administration continues to make grandiose claims of having eliminated dozens or even hundreds of Houthi fighters. But with intelligence gaps widening by the day, such statements are increasingly, or should increasingly, be viewed with scepticism, especially in contrast with comments being made by the likes of Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi, who has said just this week that we carried out 9 engagements this week with US naval forces using 27 cruise missiles and drones. Our forces continue to prevent ships of the Israeli enemy, as well as those of the US, from passing, as the US has entangled itself with the Israelis. There are tangible results in the improved capabilities of our air defence forces and the effectiveness of their operations. This week, our air defence forces successfully shot down 3 US MQ-9 drones over the skies of Sana'a and Hadida governorates. The 7th US drone shot down this month It's the 22nd down since the beginning of our support operations. The US enemy has targeted civilians in more than 260 airstrikes using bombers and other aircraft. Despite the US conducting over 1,200 air raids and naval bombardments since the resumption of its aggression, its failure is undeniable. US aggression has been ineffective in limiting our capabilities or pressuring the will of the Yemeni people. Our path is one of progress, marked by the continued development of military capabilities, the acquisition of advanced technologies, and the accumulation of greater experience. The more the US escalates, the stronger our position becomes, further accelerating the development of our military capabilities. So who do you believe more, him or the Trump administration? Certainly his words could be evidence on the sands of Yemen and in the air raid sirens going off in Tel Aviv or in Haifa. If Washington and Tel Aviv believe they can bomb Yemen into submission, they are not only clearly and obviously mistaken, they are trapped in a delusion that is costing them dearly in finances, credibility, and militarily. The American people, the right-thinking ones, are, I'm sure, wary of endless wars and squandered resources in other lands and wonder for what possible benefit. They must ask themselves, why are we pouring billions into defending Israeli aggression abroad when our own cities are crumbling and our veterans are going homeless and our cost of living skyrockets, when we have no money for disaster funding in the US, but we always seem to have money for war and for Israel and all the other domestic issues the US is dealing with right now that is lacking the funding to rectify? The Houthis' recent feats, from bringing down American drones to striking deep into Israeli territory with hypersonic missiles, should force a re-evaluation of US actions. Military might isn't winning, and it certainly cannot silence a movement fueled by the will to resist injustice and occupation. They will keep on keeping on when nobody else seems prepared to. Meanwhile, Israel appears to be trying to compete with the US in the incompetent states right now, as their attack plans against Iran have also leaked. They didn't tell them to Pete Hegseth as well, did they? Get all the details of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new content published daily, as well as supporting the channel at the very same time, which is massively appreciated. Holding power to account for ordinary working class people. I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.